So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are excited to present Motive, a system that helps patients complete their home physical therapy exercises. Our team consists of Kyle, Ankit, Megan, and myself. So let's just begin with a really brief story. This is Matt, a physical therapy patient who injured his knee while playing soccer. Matt has a full-time job during the day, and at night he has a family that he just wants to spend time with. And of course, he has to keep up to date with his latest Netflix show, Obsession. Somewhere in his busy schedule, though, he needs to find time to do his physical therapy exercises. But he usually finds himself unmotivated after a long day, or he just forgets altogether. Matt isn't alone, though. This is just one example of the many barriers facing physical therapy patients. Research shows that only about 30% of patients are adhering to their exercises prescribed by their physical therapists. And not only does this negatively impact a patient's health, but it also wastes time and money. And without seeing the progress in their health, a patient may end up undermining the value of physical therapy as a whole. So we were inspired by this problem space, and we asked, how can we motivate adult physical therapy patients with acute orthopedic injuries to adhere to their home exercise programs? And to better frame our project, we began with secondary research through the form of literature reviews and competitive analyses. We learned that current tools aren't working because they try to either replace the role of the physical therapist, aren't personalized to the patient's specific health needs, or they just use stock images that don't accurately represent the exercises that need to be completed. So moving forward with a strong understanding of this landscape, we identified 3 things that we wanted to learn from our primary research. The first being tools or methods that are already being used by patients and physical therapists to support patient adherence. Next being contexts in which patients are completing their home exercises. And finally, pain points or barriers that patients had during their therapy experience.
To get us in the right mindset to start answering these questions, we started our research with an empathy building activity. As it happens, none of us had actually been through physical therapy ourselves. So we had a licensed physical therapist walk us through a typical first appointment and assign us exercises, which we attempted to adhere to. And surprise, surprise, it wasn't an easy task. To scope our project, we interviewed 6 physical therapists, ranging in specialization. Then we talked to 6 physical therapy patients ranging in self-identified adherence level as well as treatment status. By interviewing patients in their homes, we were able to observe environmental factors that may have affected adherence. In a lab setting, we simply wouldn't have seen what it looked like to complete exercises while being walked on by a cat and a toddler. Before our research, we were under the impression that the physical therapy experience looked something like this. You had a patient attending the physical therapy clinic, being expected to complete their exercises at home and return for appointments until they were healthy enough to stop. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Well, if we take the treatment cycle and we start to pull it apart, we see that things aren't always so simple. Small breakdowns along the way start to compromise the patient's path to recovery. And with all of these barriers in mind, we knew that our final product needed to incorporate the following design principles. First off, we wanted to empower patients to take ownership of their recovery. So through interviews, we found that at the end of the day, no one can force a patient to do their exercises. If they want to improve, they have to be willing to do the work. Now, we can help patients do that by providing clear progress feedback. Athletes especially started to doubt the effectiveness of their physical therapy because these basic exercises weren't producing the muscle burning sensation that they had grown accustomed to. By providing clear progress feedback, we're reassuring patients that their exercising is actually gleaming results, even if they're not feeling it at the time. Third, we have strengthening patient-provider communication. We found that physical therapists were remarkably willing to rework exercise routines around patients' wants and needs. Unfortunately, patients weren't always aware of this fact, or they might have been embarrassed to admit that they weren't adherent in the first place. One of our most important design principles was to provide more accurate reference materials. We heard stories of patients looking at their paper reference sheets, still not quite remembering how to do their exercise correctly, and because they didn't know how that exercise tied to the next, they would stop doing all of their exercises. patients are already asking physical therapists to take videos of them in clinics with their smartphones. We wanted to provide a structured platform for them to do so. Finally, the icing on the cake was to make physical therapy more entertaining to keep people adherent through the long haul. Patients quickly became bored doing the same exercise every day. We wanted to combat this by aiming to introduce new and exciting experiences for every exercise every day.
So we created Motive. Motive is a two-part system comprised of a mobile application and a home-based motion tracking system. The mobile component can function entirely on its own, and the Connect system, the motion tracking system, only serves as an extension if they can have that. The mobile component allows recorded, narrated exercises to be recorded in the clinic and also is used to track progress along the way for the patient. The motion tracking system is set up in the patient's home and turns the exercises into personalized games. It also collects data for progress reports and gives form feedback. Now, let's look at Motive in action.
So when a patient first comes into the physical therapy clinic, do a short history, then we go through what we'd call a bunch of physical tests, having the patient moving the patient in different ways, arms, legs, whatever, but then get the patient started on a home exercise program and send them away with that. Exercise reference materials typically will either look like stick figures if they're drawn at the time, and sometimes it's just a description using words. I think that physical therapy exercises are very often boring. They become very monotonous and very boring. It should be a collaborative process the entire time, from the very first minute of meeting to the very last handshake at discharge. It should be a collaboration.
Introducing Motive, a physical therapy system that helps motivate you to complete at-home exercise routines. Motive lets your physical therapist record you doing an exercise on your phone while narrating instructions, and work with your therapist to save the exercise for later reference. Add details such as specific motions, sets, and reps. At home, Motive uses a 3D sensing and tracking system to learn how you perform each of your exercises. And create games personalized to your movements. Motive encourages and affirms your progress with post-game and daily recaps, and tracks your progress to send or share with your physical therapist, so you can collaborate throughout your entire recovery.
All right, so we're going to go through the mobile component now. As you can see, the patient's daily progress is put right on the home screen of the mobile application. It also knows if the patient is doing their exercises and can send positively framed reminders that keeps patients accountable for completing their exercises. And like we saw in the video, the patient and the physical therapist can collaborate to create exercise profiles completely unique to the patient. The physical therapist records and narrates over the patient performing their exercise and also enters unique details about that exercise. And the video can then be used for reference at home, making the patients feel more confident about their exercises. The videos are easily updated and synced with the motion tracking system at home, and the patients can also mark the exercises completed on the mobile application if they're away from home or don't have the Connect system. So the mobile application tracks and visualizes adherence rates as well. This here is an adherence heat map calendar. This data can be sent before a visit to the physical therapist or reviewed in person together on the phone. By opening a specific date, we can see completion rate for that day, which enables a conversation between the patient and the physical therapist about specific barriers they may be facing.
I'm going to introduce the second part of our concept, that is motion tracking. Each time a new exercise profile is created, the patient has to teach the system how their movement pattern. The video of the patient recorded in the clinic plays, and the patient is asked to follow the video in order to record their movements correctly. This acts as a reference for the exercises. Once that is complete, the system can now automatically keep track of reps and performance during exercise sessions. The patient then can access games that change daily. Motive uses general movement patterns to create new and engaging exercise experiences that helps breaking up the monotony of physical therapy. which is a fancy way of saying it's fun. At the end of each session, patients can view progress reports like this one. Here, there is carefully selected information which helps patients understand how they are doing and keep them motivated. For example, showing the patient that they are doing the exercises for 8 days increases the likelihood of coming back on the 9th day. After evaluating our prototypes with current and past physical therapy patients, they told us that our product does add value to the physical therapy experience. Video reference materials increase patients' confidence and likelihood of completing exercises. Fun and engaging games helps in breaking the monotony of physical therapy, and progress visualizations help them reassure that they're on the right track. And it does all of this without any additional input from the physical therapist.
So moving forward, we would like to dive deeper into the game creation and the game design of the exercises in collaboration with therapists and also professional game designers. We would also like to expand our system to a broader demographic of patients other than our target audience of adult orthopedic patients. So to conclude, we would like to thank our sponsor, Primera, the MHCID program faculty and staff, the physical therapists that worked with us and advised us, and of course, our research participants. None of this would have been possible without their support and willingness to help us.